What's up, everybody? The weekly Q&A is back. As you can see, I'm a little banged up this time around. A little accident. Um, don't have an offer for you guys this week except to tell you if there's anything you want, just like a second pair of eyes, an offer you're running, some ads, um, talking to clients, any sort of issues like that. I'm happy to give you guys a little bit of free advice. Normally people pay me a lot for that, but I know it's kind of crazy economic times we're living in. So if you want some help with something you're doing and just want a second pair of eyes, there's no strings attached to that. There's no sales pitch, and I'm not charging for it right now, but I will be in the future. So give a brother a holler. Let's get into the Q&A. So this one comes from Oral. Trust versus transparency. Let's say I get a dentist as a client. In fact, I will meet with a prospect next Monday, which is a dentist, so no thought play here, it's real. Let's assume I want to tell him, look, I don't want to be just another service provider with just another fee. I want to be and can be a successful strategic partner, which brings you revenue, which we then share. Sorry, I'm straining a little bit here, my eyesight. I know that the average lifetime value of a new patient, and I know the profit rate, but I don't know how to effectively share the profit. Mainly, how do I know how many patients he closed? Must I trust him, or should I add some layer of transparency? Well, Oral, transparency really is probably the most important thing working with any client. Whether you do that on like a retainer basis or on like a revenue share deal, the simplest way that I found that works best is to understand that there's really two things you're going for. One is you're actually testing the client themselves. So you want to take them on a small first date, and I usually just tell them straight up that, I'm looking that you're going to pay me on time, and that we're going to do this, and that this is going to be a partnership that can work for a long time. And I also am not looking for another boss. So you can set all the frame and the rules. We usually think that they set all the rules, and when you do it on a retainer basis, because they're the one taking all the risk, putting all the money, it's hard not to end up in a scenario where they're your boss. They may not call it that, but if a client calls you and says, or messages you and says, hey, can you call me? And you're on a retainer basis, it's really hard to say, no, I don't feel like calling you. You almost have to, right? So you end up with like 10, 20, 30, 40 different bosses when you do it that way. But when you're the one taking all the risk, you get to bring out your alpha. So a big part of this is just the frame where you're like, hey, listen, here's how I work. And you lay your framework and say, here's what I'm going to do. And as far as like showing up where you have something to show them that you're different, the easiest way to do that is actually to have an offer that says, I want to be a strategic partner. Let's do a little small trial together. If you do those things, the transparency is less of an issue than most people think. Because what most people are worried about going into it is that, oh, they'll get a bunch of deals and they'll patients or clients or whatever, and they won't pay me for them, and I won't know about them. And in actuality, the bigger risk is that they'll just be terrible and not be able to close people. And if it works, trust me, you will know. Hey, what's up, Rem? Yeah, I fell off a jungle gym. This is the most Canadian stereotype ever, but it's an old hockey injury and it's popped out about 10 times. I ended up having to go to the hospital with this because I couldn't get it back in, which I've been able to do the other 9 times myself, but this time I just couldn't. So I'm definitely feeling the effects of not sleeping, being pumped full of drugs at the hospital and all that. But yeah, Oral, so you're the one in control of that relationship. The transparency is way less of an issue. Almost always, they're happy to be transparent for anybody who can be a source of cash flow for them. The much bigger issue is that if you choose the wrong partner, which is probably 80% of the battle, in my opinion, is they just won't be good at closing and they won't hold up their end of the bargain. And so you won't see the real revenue benefit. So you got to choose people carefully. And the biggest thing I look for is are you adding to a business that's working, or are you trying to make a business that's not working? A lot of times we try and help the businesses that need it the most, but that's more like charity work. That's not like how you want to run it. So if you choose the clients carefully, like 80 to 90% of that will go away. And if you're interested in that criteria, shoot me a message. I do have those written out, and I'll share with you my criteria, what I look for. PJ, I know this may sound like an outrageous strategy, but have any of you tried prospecting in reverse? Most businesses are pitched by agencies daily and have become skeptical and weary that marketing agencies can generate results. Instead of telling them what I can do for them, like every other agency that's cold email, cold calling, pitching them, I'm showing them. Yes, PJ, demonstrations are far, far more powerful. Um, Depends how you're doing it. Like if you're running Facebook ads, like I wouldn't run ads for somebody, but if you've got like a little referral campaign or a past customer or a reactivation campaign in your back pocket, I would just show them because that'll do far more convincing than any amount of uh, wordplay that you're going to do. So yes, that definitely works, and that's what a lot of the smarter agencies do. They just don't talk about it. Chase, is Google fair to SEO people? Not really. Google's not in the business of pleasing SEO people. They're in the business of trying to produce quality search results. Whether they do that or not is debatable. I'd say they do a good job. I wouldn't say they do a great job. That's just my personal take. But certainly, no, they're not fair to SEO people, and they change the rules a lot. And I think Google gives a lot of bad advice. I learned far more as an SEO person watching what Google did. So I would fire up Majestic SEO or Open Site Explorer or Ahrefs, and then I would check out other top sites to see how they were doing it. Because watching what Google does is far more powerful than listening to their just make quality content and people will link to you. That is terrible advice. Stefan, question: best practice in automating onboarding processes. Is it even good to automate onboarding processes? Yes and no, Stefan. You do want to make your onboarding process systematized, organized, and kind of wow people and blow them away because it's a big leverage point in the whole thing. But where most people screw it up is they try and automate it before they've worked out the bugs. I see this too with like people trying to build funnels for offers that have never worked, or they've never been able to get clients and they're trying to build funnels on day one. You can do that if you have an ad budget to blow through, but a lot of people in this, like I've seen in this Corona economy, people coming to me who have no money and they're trying to build a funnel. That's just the wrong approach to it. You can verify it first, with free groups and just direct messaging people, and then when you get that dialed in, then you onboard. I never personally completely automated our onboarding, but we did systematize it, which is just as good, where you get all the things handled well and you're not the one doing it. Amar, can anyone suggest a good landing page tool or page builder tool to get started with? Depends what you're using it for, Amar. If you're using it for like online marketing, I think Lead Pages is the best. If you're doing it for local, Unbounce is really good. If you're doing it where you're trying to build sequences, ClickFunnels is the way to go. There's a lot of like other alternatives and stuff, so there's no shortage of those, but those are probably the three most known ones that I can definitely recommend. Aaron, what's the best advice you can give to someone who just started their careers? Aaron, where most people get it wrong when they start out is they create a service and then they go out there and go, how do I sell this? And it's much better to choose a market, figure out what their problems are, and then build a service around what they actually need, because it'll be far more desirable. So I'll see this like in my local market where I'm from, my hometown of Windsor, Ontario, Canada, has a lot of automotive. And every like couple of weeks, I'll see a new auto body shop open up, even though there's like 40 within 10 blocks. And it's usually somebody who just wants to work for themselves. But the reality is the market doesn't need that, right? That's just a service they bring. But there is one guy, like, and we actually experienced this. My girlfriend, her dream car was a Volkswagen Beetle. We got her a Volkswagen Beetle. She was really stoked. But it turns out, like, if you have a German car in Canada, there's all kinds of like issues that come up and it's not so easy to fix, and a lot of mechanics just don't handle it. So he created a Volkswagen specialist, and this was like actually driven out of a market need. So he almost doesn't even have to advertise because the other shops say, oh, we don't work on Volkswagen, and they just send that business his way. So the best advice is to listen to your market. Like don't do what everybody else does and try and come up with what you want to sell and then try and fit that round peg into a square hole. It's way better to start with what they need, and your life will get a lot easier. Rim. In my case, I decided to choose pool marketing. That's a cool market, by the way, Rim. I'm glad you chose it. I have a couple of friends doing that in some of the big American places. You can get, like, believe it or not, like $100,000 for a pool. So it's a very high-end niche where you don't have to generate a lot of clients. Jack, what is the most efficient way you guys pick up clients? Jack, you're going to hear me beat this to death in this group, but it's not about methods of like how you reach people, because people get confused. Should I do Facebook ads? Should I do LinkedIn? Should I do cold outreach? I've heard about the networking and all these different things, and they all work. The reality is, if you can understand how to make a good offer to a human being, then all of those methods will work for you. If you don't understand how to make a good offer to a human being, then they'll all be really hard. So before you try and figure out what's the one way, figure out your offer. And the best way to do that is to go where your clients already go and to listen to them. I know it's little sounds simple, but most people just don't do that. They try and sell what they want to sell instead of what people actually need. Natasha, can anyone tell me what is the best audience to sell kitchen appliances? I want to sell a food steamer, but unable to specify audiences. Help me out, please. Natasha, I'm assuming you're asking about Facebook. The simplest thing is, this is a really powerful principle once you really get it, and it's counterintuitive from how we really think. So if you sell shoes, just imagine for a second you sell shoes. What most people try and do is sell shoes to somebody who needs shoes. So they look at people who are around the world barefoot and try and sell them shoes. And that's actually a really hard sale, because those people don't think they need shoes, or they don't see the value of shoes. It's way, way easier to sell shoes to people who own 100 pairs of shoes in their closet already than it is to sell shoes to someone barefoot. Even though intellectually our first thought is to go and sell it to somebody who doesn't have shoes. So when you're targeting, I would just target people who buy all the other kitchen appliances. I don't know what those are offhand, but I would just spend an hour researching the other brands, and those are all your other targeting options. If they buy a dishwasher and they buy a blender and they buy, those blendy things, I forget what you call them, but if they buy all those things, they're probably going to buy your kitchen appliance as well. So target people who are already buying those things. That's the simplest way you're going to shortcut that. Vico, accidentally sent $1,000 to my VA instead of 100 via TransferWise. Anyone done this before? How to reverse? I have done it, indeed. I've actually sent it with 4,000 because I used to pay my VAs monthly and add in an extra zero. Whoopsie. Yeah, usually the simplest way is just have your VA do a reverse. If you've been with them a while, they're usually cool. They're not going to rob you. They want a job. You can contact TransferWise or whoever you used, but more than likely the simplest course of action is just to eat a little bit of the fees and just ask them to reverse. And what I did in the past is gave them a little bonus for being honest about it, to let them know that honesty was a rewarded trait. But I've been there when you send way too much money, you're like, oh no. Famka, hey guys, how do you convince clients to pay up front? I've been with this client and it was a fight convincing them to pay up front. She's old school and believes work should be done before payment. Nonetheless, she budged. However, she is extending another month and I have a feeling we will have the same issue. How does one convince someone to pay up front? Perhaps my reasoning is not enough. I'm not sure, guys. Can someone advise me? That's a loaded one, Famka. The first thing is you don't have to work with clients that you have to convince to pay. I always start my targeting with clients who are already paying for things, and then therefore it's a very normal thing for them to do. So we're actually running a little lawyer motorcycle campaign. All the people I'm marketing to right now are people who are running ads today and paying for it. So there's not I got to convince you that spending ads is worth it. So you can save yourself a lot of headaches with that. There are scenarios where it can make sense to get paid after the fact, especially if you're doing revenue share deals. But usually it's an issue of what you're seeing there is an issue with trust, is that client's probably been burned before and doesn't want to pay and is just worried it's going to go wrong. So the simplest thing you can do is just, hey, how about we run a little small test? You do something that'll work for him or her quickly, and then you, based on that, say, let's continue forward with a paying relationship of sorts, and they'll be more likely to trust you. It's usually they're just really guarded because in their experience, we forget, they've probably had 10 SEO companies over the last 10 years, all who promised the moon, and maybe 3 of those people actually got them rankings, and they lost 2 of them in Google updates, so they're just really jaded, and that's a lot of local businesses. So if you understand that, what I do is in those scenarios, I go, hey, you're understandably skeptical, you don't want to pay up front, why don't we do a little trial? We'll know in 48 hours whether it'll make sense for us to keep working together. And if we do so, here's the payment terms I can propose, and we can do it so you're only taking it from the profits I generate. Otherwise, but more than likely, most of those issues will disappear, Famka, if you just get better clients and choose people who are already spending money rather than trying to convince people with no shoes to buy shoes. Jack, hey all. Just trying to build some websites based on local business. Which WordPress theme builder would you suggest, Elementor, Divi, or any other? Jack, I'm probably not the best person to ask for web design. I would talk to Michael Barnes in the group. I'll tell you just my personal experiences. Elementor and the theme Astra are really customizable. For like 90% of web design, you can do everything you need with those two themes put together. And the free versions are enough, so you don't have to, if you want the extras, you can, but the free versions are enough to do what you need to do. And last question, Shaq, Facebook shut down my account. Can I help with this? Yes, Shaq, I have a script. It's not 100%. I just want you to know, like, I don't control Facebook. I don't control Zuckerberg. This has been happening a lot lately. I've seen this post like literally 500 times in the last couple weeks. So Facebook's on like a mission. A lot of those people are getting their accounts back, but it's just kind of fucky right now. What I would tell you in the grander scheme, I didn't realize this in the beginning. I was really good at SEO and getting a whole bunch of traffic through search engines and crushing it like that. But then one day I watched as people got rankings chopped out of the search engine, some of my clients lost, and I realized through that putting all my eggs, 100% of them, in the Google basket was not the best strategy long term because I had no control over what Google did. So the best kind of traffic that you can ever have is traffic you control. So whatever platform you run it on, Facebook, YouTube, SEO, doesn't matter. You want to convert that into your own audience that you can use over time, over and over and over. That's the best long-term strategy. So I'm happy to share with you the script. Anybody else who wants it, you can get that script. That's totally cool. But long-term, don't put all your eggs in the Zuck basket. Don't put all your eggs in the Google basket because you will lose. If you play this game long enough, you will lose an ad account or a ranking or something that's really important to you, and you'll realize if you hadn't been building an audience that, like, holy shit, you lose your money stream overnight, and that really sucks when it happens. And I would hate to see that to happen to anybody here. And the easiest way is just to convert that to your own audience with regularity, where you can control it in an email list or a group or whatever. So that's my 2 cents on that. And again, if you have anything you want me to look at personally, this is just a free offer. I'm doing this because I know it's hard times for a lot of you guys. Like, probably 80% of you guys I talk to are in some kind of debt, need clients yesterday, the economy's putting a real pinch on you, and I was really in that space in 2007, 2008. I remember what that was like. So if there's anything I can help you with, just make your life easier, look at a post, look at a web design, help you sort something with a client, or critique an offer, just shoot it over to me, private message. There's no strings attached. I would just love to help you guys. That's all I got for this week. I'm going to go rest because I'm fucking hurt. And this has probably not been my most shining weekend. So much love, guys.